So let's say you are working with a pretty large spreadsheet. As you scroll down, you might notice that it's kind of hard to keep track of what the columns mean because the header row is lost all the way up at the top. And if you have to scroll this way, then you lose even more information because the column that actually says what all this data is tied to, like for this example, it would be the DJ Dex for sale keyword, is lost all the way over at the left. To make it easier to keep track of our spreadsheet, we might want to freeze this column and the header row in place to make sure that they are always at the top and left of the screen when we need them. To do this, there are a few different methods. The easiest and fastest is to go to this top left gray block here and grab this thick gray line and just drag it down to the bottom of the header row that we want to freeze. This will keep anything above this line frozen at the top of the screen. Unfortunately, there's not a way just to freeze row 2 here with our header and let this one in row 1 scroll past. Now, to freeze our column, we just grab this gray line and drag it past column A, drag it past column B, and let go of it. Now we have our header row and our first 2 columns frozen. It's important to note that if you have your entire row 1 merged, like all the way out to here, say you wanted to put a title, call it keyword planner or something, and you merged all these rows, then you wouldn't be able to freeze your columns. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like real quick. As you can see, Google Sheets throws an error, and that's because we have this cell here merged. So if we go and unmerge it, then we can freeze our column again. Now to unfreeze, we just grab this line, make sure we grab it and not the resized column blue line, and we just drag it all the way back over, and we avoid the blue resize and grab our gray line, drag it all the way back up, and we are back to unfreeze. Now there's another way we can freeze, and that is to go to View and then to Freeze. And we have the option of freezing rows and columns here. If your header is within the first 2 rows, you can just do this. 1 row will freeze just row 1, 2 rows will freeze row 1 and 2, and up to current row will freeze anything up to the row that you have highlighted. So if you need the first 3 or 4 rows frozen, you might want to do this instead of just row 1 or 2. But if you are all the way over here on this side of the spreadsheet and you don't want to freeze the entire spreadsheet, then it might be helpful to go View, Freeze, and we'll just freeze our first 2 columns, and you can see that it works properly here. And it's just as easy to unfreeze. We go to View, Freeze, no rows, View, Freeze, no columns, and we are unfrozen again. Now it's not as obvious, but if we go over to our mobile version of the application, we can do the same thing on the Google Sheets mobile app. So what I'm going to do is just long press column B, and you can see the 3 dots menu here. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click Freeze. And you can see that freezes our first 2 columns. I'm going to long press row 2, and you can see freeze is right here. I don't need to go into the menu. I just click Freeze, and we are frozen. Important to note here that when you long click and unfreeze, you still have to unfreeze row 1 because row 1 is still frozen. You can't just unfreeze everything like you can in the web application. So I'm going to do the same thing for the columns. Unfreeze, and we see column A is still frozen. So I'm going to go long click column A, 3 dots, unfreeze, and we are back to being unfrozen again. And that is it. Thank you for your time, and subscribe if this helped out.